Hello everybody, this is the third episode of the series where we explain, or rather make an MMORPG in Minecraft using paper. This is going to be by far the most complex video, or the first one in a series of complex videos. So today we are going to be deleting the template codes and are going to make something a little bit more serious. So what we're going to do today is delete the hello command. So this was a good test just to feel out how you place commands, or how do you register commands, and how do you register event listeners. But we're going to delete this, right? And we're going to delete anyway. And effects too. Effects, we're going to use them later, but not for now. Chat message listener, we're going to delete that too. And player left and joined, we're going to delete both of those too. Okay, so now that we did that, we can also go here and delete all of this, or let's just comment it out if we ever need it for future reference. Okay, so let's create a folder called managers. By the way, if you didn't know, you can make a Java file like this inside of a directory or a folder. You go manager, the name of the directory, dot, and then the name of the class, which would be probably a custom player manager. Okay, so how this is going to work is we're going to make a public static custom player manager, and that is going to be the instance. So what is the instance? Okay, so the instance is basically going to be the manager itself, and that is going to be accessible from anywhere, as you can see declared here, public static. Okay, now we will make a private constructor. As you can see, it commented it out for me, thank you. What that means is basically no other class is going to be able to create a manager outside of this one, because by default, if we didn't have this, by default it would be a public empty constructor. And with this, we basically have the one and only instance of the custom player manager. Nice. So now that we have a very simple manager, it doesn't have any operations or anything, we're gonna do a player folder or directory, and in there we're gonna do custom player. That is going to be the name of the class. And what should it contain? It's going to contain a public string name, sure, public UUID, of course. That is going to be the unique identification. I don't know what the other U stands for, but yeah. And let's make a custom field, or actually, let's make something like this. Public void register field, sure. And what this is going to do is basically, let's make a new package. The package is going to be called, or actually we're gonna add a new class inside of the player directory. It's going to be called field, or let's say player field, because field already exists in Java. So let's do player field and let's make it a class, sure. So what we want to do is give it a name and give it a value. But what would we want to do with these fields? So what I was thinking is we're going to do public, well, in this case not static, public final step of those fields, right? Player field. Okay, so the field would probably be something like mana, would be energy, any of those fields that would change over time without being a whole new thing. So generic stuff like energy, mana, strength, and stuff like that. So we're gonna do that in the player field. What it's supposed to have is, of course, the name, the value. This is going to be the current value, but let's make it t, which is going to be the type parameter of the class. It is going to be used as a reference, and let's make it extend numerables, or let's do so you can check like this. This is the class that is used for all Java built-in. So we're gonna use extend constable, and then we're gonna do over here we're gonna do t. What t means the value is going to be the type of this, and then we're gonna do public t, maybe default value. Default value would be nice. Or maybe even better, we could do current value. So what these two would represent, basically when a player has, let's say 100 HP, let's make a comment, 100 HP, and let's say the max is maybe 250 HP. Okay, so this is his current HP, and this is his calculated HP. But this doesn't usually, for example, for health, it doesn't make sense for it to be called the calculated value. But when you look at something like strength is gonna be, let's say he has 100 strength, but he would have 250 again strength. This is calculated strength. So what would happen here is the calculated would be basically applying all of his buffs and debuffs. Actually, now that I think about it, it doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense for it to be a calculated value and a current value. It would make sense for it to be only one. Yeah. Okay, but we will do the initial value. It will be double dot value of 0 to t, of course. It doesn't like that. A double. Oh, yeah, of course. If the t isn't a double, it's not gonna like that. Okay. We're gonna ignore it for now. We're gonna default it to null, basically. So we'll be in a situation like this if we were to maybe use HP, and we're gonna actually do that right now. Okay. So custom player, he's gonna have player fields. There's gonna be a question mark, meaning we don't know what's gonna be in there. And then we're gonna call them fields, and we're gonna do a hash set. So the difference between a hash set and a list is when you have a list can be 1, 2, then it can be 2 again. But if you have a hash set, you could make something like this, right? And then when you go into 2, sure. 2 again, nope, it's gonna merge with this one, right? Now if we did a map, for example, a map is also good because a map allows you to do something like this. So you have 1 in the second value, or so this is a key value and this is a stored value, and it's gonna be 2. But if we did 2, 3, or 2, 2 actually, sure, it's not gonna, nothing's gonna happen. But if we try to do this, right? If there is a key of with the value of 2, and we try to input another key with the value of 2, what's gonna happen is this value is gonna be overridden by this value. But there will never be duplicates. That is the thing with hash map, hash set. I don't know if there is any. There is a concurrent hash map or concurrent map or queue or DQ. But anything that has a hash in its name, hash table, hash map, hash set, hash attribute, blah, 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 blah. All of those things should never have a duplicate key value. Okay, now that I explained that, we're gonna do register field. And then what we're gonna do is basically, let's make an object, value, and then a name. So let's do fields dot, add new player field with the name and value. Now, it's not gonna like that. Why? Because it doesn't have a default constructor with those parameters. So let's do that, right? Okay. And it's again gonna have a problem. Why? Because value is object and we don't want it to be an object. And we can't do really t. So what we're gonna do. So what this does is basically we can input any value over here into this function, but it again needs to extend constable. Of course, now it's not gonna have any problems because the value and the current value is the same. Sure, that is all fine and dandy, but how would registering those fields actually look like, and how would we even interact with the fields? Okay, so since this is a set, it is a hash set, what is nice is we can do something like this, public get field. Yep, and there we go. It immediately recognized what I wanted to do. There we go. And what is the thing is it has to be a question mark, because if we do t, then it's gonna have problems because over here it's declared as question mark, and we can't really do a t because t doesn't exist in this context. So what we have to do is do something like this, return t, but okay, question mark, and since we already know it is t that extends constable, we can safely do this. There you go. So basically this is the return value, and anything that is the parent, or sorry, child of this class can be returned as this class, and it's not gonna get cut off. So if this extends constable, I can just return constable, and it's gonna be returning t, no matter what. So now we know how to get a field, but this doesn't really look optimized, and I don't like it. So how we can optimize this is, in my opinion, we're gonna make a map, and we're gonna do something like this, namespace e. There we go. And we're gonna do, instead of a hash set, we're gonna do a hash map. Now, of course, some issues have arrived. One of the main ones is that it's no longer add, but it's put. Sure, not even a problem. But what is this namespace key? Now, if you look at the code, it's a key and namespace. Wow, thank you. We couldn't guess. But it's basically how Minecraft stores all of its stuff. Basically, Minecraft stores keys that reference the things that are in the code, or sorry, in the files. Basically, recipes, recipes that could be crafting recipes, furnace recipes, blasting recipes, grindstone, and whatever other recipe, even custom recipes, have to have an associated namespace key that allows them to be quickly searched, because the namespace key is just basically two strings that could be, and probably are, indexed in the code. And it's much easier to search for it that way than to search some other stuff that would probably, take too long. So for that reason, we're also going to implement the same system, because if it's good enough for Mojang, it's definitely good enough for us. So we can do a namespace key, and that's going to be a key, of course. And we can put key here. Now, this works, but we may not want it to be like that. So what we can do is make the same function, but instead of the namespace key, we're going to do a string and then a name. Rather, field name. Now, what is the difference? I can merge these two, The thing is, maybe this is going to be a display name, basically. This is going to be the display name for the field, and this is going to be an endgame or encode. So we're going to change this. The shortcut to rename something is Shift F6 in IntelliJ IDEA, as you can see. And we're going to name it this display name. We're going to do that here too. Display name. Nice and neat. And over here we have an issue, and that is key is no longer a thing, and if we do field name, it's not good enough. So we're gonna do new namespace key, and it already recognizes what we wanted to do here. If we wanted to take it a step further, instead of typing it out, we can do something like this: Lyphea dot. Now we don't have it. We don't have a get instance. We don't have anything. So we're probably gonna do something like that. We're gonna do a get instance. Sorry, public. There we go. There we go. Thank you. And then we can do Lyphea.getInstance. Nice. Which also, if you look at the code, it's plugin, and then it checks for the arguments, it takes the namespace and calls the function with string again. So it calls this. It doesn't directly, it does the validation and then, but yeah, it's the same thing. And over here now we have the same problem. It's no longer this. What is it? It's an entry. There we go. It's an entry in the map. There we go, map.entry. What is it? For each not applicable. Why is it not applicable? We have to get the entry set first, of course. That is basically a loopable map. As you can see, it's a set of map entries. But that is not really the most efficient way. Some of you might be already screaming at your monitors. The most efficient way, of course, would be something like this. Fields.get this, and we just return it. Now, what is it going to make the problem of? Okay, so we provided the player field, and so this is my bad. Initially, I didn't make the function structure right. Over here, it should be, so we can delete all of this. We can do a player field, and then question mark, and that should all work. Now, we can register a field, we can get a field. So let's test it out. We have to make a listener package. In the listener package, we have to make a player join listener. Now we don't really have luck because we deleted it. So we have to do implements listener. That is the bucket event listener. Event handler, we go here, public void on player join, and the event is player join. No, player join event. There we go. Event. Over here, what we can do is, of course, as we saw, we can check if the event get player instance of play. But no, we don't have to check that. Of course we don't, because it's a player join event. Who else would it be? What we have to do is sort of connect the join events to the custom player manager. Because why? Well, because we want to do something like this. Public static void, of course, register player. There we go. Now this is the recursive function, and we don't get anything from this. So instead, what we're gonna do is do a public static final. There we go. It's a map of UIDs and custom players. They already recognize what we wanted to do. Thank God for AI. I don't even know if this uses AI behind the hood, but yeah. So what we're gonna do is players.put, of course, put player dot. Wait a goddamn minute. It isn't supposed to be player. It's supposed to be the vanilla player. There we go. Get unique ID. What is the second parameter we can check? It's supposed to be the custom player. Do we have a constructor for the player? No, we do not yet. So what we can do is something like this. Public custom player UID and name. Since this is already initialized, and let's put the default capacity, as you can see, initial capacity to 0. But we can make a different constructor that we can do this. Sure. I like this. But also, I will make a third one. Public custom player. We can do something a little bit different. Yeah, this is also a great solution. And I honestly like it a bit more. I'm not gonna lie. But again, it's using the wrong player. It's supposed to be this and get unique and get name. Sadly about this, what we have to do is ignore it. But that means we can also shorten this. Now, my advice is to usually not make this many fields or this many constructors, because I mean, as you can see, it's not really the best looking thing, I guess we could say. But it does, it is nice that we can do something like this. That is definitely a nice feature. We can just collapse all of it and, you know, hopefully never have to look at it again. But yeah, this is basically all of the constructors that we want to do. If you don't want to do a map for some reason, you could do something like this, but in this case, I probably wouldn't recommend it. You could do, actually, you couldn't. Usually what you can do is something like this. Just do player dot dot dot, and you can have fields, but in this case, not really. So this is all that we want to do. Of course, in the player manager, we can do just the player. Or, right. So we're gonna register the player over here. Players.put. So what do we require in the first place? So we need a UUID and a custom player. There we go, good enough. Right. But what if we wanted each player to have, let's say, we wanted each player to have some sort of fields, right? Some sort of field. Well, we could do it here manually. We could do a register field and then blah blah blah. But I'm not really, I don't really want to do that. So this would be like a default one, but in my opinion, probably not gonna do that. What we're gonna do instead is gonna be this, right? And it's gonna be this and UUID, and then actually just put a player in here. There we go. So how we're gonna do this is in the join event, we're gonna do custom player manager dot instance dot, well, we don't even need the instance, we can just do this over here, custom player equals new custom player event dot get player, and now what we can do is just register the fields. Custom player, register a field. Sure, let's name it mana. That's going to be the code, and the value is going to be 0D, and the display name is going to be mana. Sure. Register player, and then we do custom player. Nice. Of course, we have to register the listener. But we already have something like this, so sorry. We can just uncomment this, and it should be no player join listener. Okay, we renamed it a little bit since the last time we used it. Mana custom player manager is now active, although this instance is not really useful because this is static, and this is static. So Yeah, not really useful that much right now. Custom player, and that's all looking fine to me. So let's run the server in debug mode. And also let's turn on the game. I'll be back when all of that is done. Okay, we're back and the server looks like loaded. Multiplayer again, same issue. I don't know what's happening, but it's not showing up. So let's do localhost. And there we go, we joined. Right. Do we get any errors? So we don't get any errors now. Let's display to the player that he has a mana function, and let's add a command to take out the mana. So let's do commands mana or remove mana executor, implements command executor, implement method on command. Sure. We're gonna check if the sender is opt, return false, and or sender layer, or I guess the sender is already instance of. So we're gonna do sender instance of layer. There we go. Let's just, yeah, okay, over here doesn't like it. Okay, there we go. Now instead of this, we're gonna return true, and then we're gonna take out the layer. Of course, he wants to suggest set mana, but that's not a thing. So what we can do in the custom player manager, we don't currently, we can get players with the UID, or we could do a custom function. So for now, we're gonna avoid the custom function, and we're just gonna use the UUID. So that will look something like this. Custom player manager, players, get, and then we're gonna do player that get unique ID. And then we're gonna do fields get mana. Right, is that, oh yeah, we wanted it to be a namespace key. Now he doesn't know what we wanted. So what we have what we have to do is cast this to double. Sorry, let me try again. So yeah, current value. What is the problem with this? Introduce a local variable that is a, of course. What is the player? Send message component dot text current mana plus mana. Sure. And we could do something like this, but instead of we can do current value minus equal 10. Of course, he's not gonna like it because he says we capture question mark. So I think we should fix that if we can. So let's give it a try and fix it. Right? We are currently using the players.get. What is the problem with that? Well, players get, it's supposed to return the custom player. What it does is, yeah, it returns the player, and we do field dot get, and that is the question mark. That is where the problem begins, I guess. So we can't really know what this is. So how would we do that? Let's do get field first off. Here we can do mana to simplify our code a little bit, since we already have written the code for this. And the current value could be cast into double, if I'm not mistaken. No, so it doesn't like it still. And that is why. Why is that? Variable expected. You got it. Am I missing something? Variable missing. What is that supposed to mean? Variable expected. What kind of variable? Does it want it to be double x equals this, and then okay, so for some reason does it work with the no. Okay, so it really doesn't like this. I'm honestly not too sure, so in the next video we're definitely gonna fix that. So let me just pop this out. We're not gonna call it X, we're gonna call it something like new mana. New mana. Oh, I think I know what's happening. Yeah, after we edit the mana, minus equals 10d, we should register the field now. Well, what that does is just puts it back, basically updates it. Of course, that is not the most efficient way, but for now it will do. And then we're gonna do this current mana, and let's just, again, let's say get field. Over here we can just call straight up mana, which is going to shorten the function quite a bit. So we can just copy paste it, we don't even have to. It doesn't look as readable as I'd like it, but this is just a proof of concept, we could say. So remove mana executor, and that is a command. So let's do something like this. New remove mana executor, and is that it? Yeah, okay. Let's reload this. Okay, it's reloaded. It's on the server. Or it's not. Let's do Shift F9. Even though I didn't have to do this, this time I wanted to do it because I don't know if it works with when implementing new commands. I'm pretty sure it doesn't, but okay. Well, let us wait a little bit. There we go. Okay, we can join. We can give it a try. Mana, or let's do Lyphea hello. Okay, current mana minus 10. So does it work? Yes, it does. Okay. So that is for now all I have to show. One thing we could change is definitely, instead of this, we should definitely maybe remove mana. And also over here we should remove mana. And so do we do it here. And then removes 10 mana from the player. Okay, nice. If I reload, let's also check if, yeah, as you can see, it doesn't change all of that, but the logic can be hot reloaded, which is a pretty nice feature. It is pretty neat. So that is it for this tutorial. What we did today, to sum it up, is basically we made a custom player manager that includes all of the players. In the next episode, we're gonna add the removal of players and the data saving of the player, which is the two most important parts. So for now, when a player leaves and then rejoins, what's gonna happen is we're gonna be set back. So there is no leave function and there is no save function, which are the most important parts, probably. And for this join function, this is relatively okay for now. But what we're gonna do next episode is definitely gonna be checking if the data already exists. If it does, we can load it. If not, then we have to register the player. The remove mana executor will probably get removed since that is not useful in a real world application. This is just for us to test in memory operations, which we can see is working. We also did the custom player class, which is also probably going to be changed a little bit. And the player field class, which is probably not going to be changed at all unless we want to add some cool stuff. But yeah, thanks guys for watching. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Anything included in this video is definitely going to be in the description. The code is also going to be published on the GitHub at the end of the series. And what we're going to do next episode also is definitely going to simplify the commands with the use of an API. And we're definitely going to change it from the the paper mappings. We're going to change it to Mojang reobfuscated Mojang deobfuscated mappings or NMS. And we will see what happens from there. So yeah, there you go.